Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Credit Suisse, and welcome to this keynote address on Thailand's reconstruction and recovery. I'm Lito Camacho. I'm Vice Chairman for Asia Pacific of Credit Suisse. It's my great pleasure and honor this afternoon to welcome our guest resource speaker to the AIC, Kun Kittiratt Na-Ranong, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of the Kingdom of Thailand. Kun Kittiratt's been very generous with us. He landed just before noon today, and he will be going back to the airport from here because of his busy schedule in Thailand. So I hope you will take advantage of this unusual and rare opportunity. As we all know, 2011 was a very challenging year for Thailand. The severe floods in the second half of last year has had a significant impact on the national economy. After a 9% contraction in the fourth quarter, overall GDP growth for the full year was just a shade over 0% or 0.1%. Many experts, however, today are predicting a fast V-shaped recovery. Others, however, continue to remain skeptics and say that the sustained stimulus will be necessary to put Thailand's economy back on track. It is our privilege to have the Deputy Prime Minister Kittiratt with us today to give us his insights on how this major Southeast Asian economy will respond to the challenges ahead. Please join me in welcoming the Deputy Prime Minister Kittiratt to the AIC. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Camacho, for your kind introduction. I'm very pleased to be here with you this afternoon, and I have requests, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to sit down here so that make this less formal, and perhaps I can speak my heart to share with you what Thailand is doing. And the team of CSFB, both here and in Bangkok, has been very kind to me. And also recall my good old days because I used to serve the Stock Exchange of Thailand as the president during 2001 to 2006. And the father of one officer of CSFB used to be both my professor, and he was the former finance minister of the country, and also the other one, who is also the son of the former president of Thailand, Bank of Thailand, and also the deputy prime minister of Thailand. So I'm among good old friends, and I'm very happy to sit here with the former finance minister of Philippines. Let me jump into the story because I've seen the clock already is now started. Since I'm the basketball fan, that I'm lucky enough that it's not 24 seconds that I have to do the slam dunk before the ball turns to the other side. But I would talk about the unique characteristic of the Thai economy briefly. As of now, Thailand is not suffering with unemployment problem. We basically have got no unemployment. We actually have been overemployed. We have had as many as 5 million immigrant workers from our neighboring countries who have helped the Thai economy grow to where we are now in the last half a decade. We are very well diversified. We're still like agricultural-based economy, but the industrial sector become very important to us, more and more important to us. Actually, we started our industrialization process some 45 years ago when we started up Board of Investment Office, when the economy was small, and we line up all those industries to the country. And of course, we did not spend the first 35 years to build the country strong enough that we suffer with trade deficit, current account deficit, and perhaps not as high standard of corporate governance with the fixed exchange rate regime. So the country collapsed in 1997. Actually, Thailand was the one who started Asian economic crisis. But after that, in the past 14 years, 15 years, after we float the Thai baht and used the, of course, weak currency to bring the economy back to our feet, we have grown our export sectors very impressively in the past 14, 15 years. So now we have $175 billion in our international reserve at the central bank. the liquidity in the system has been huge enough that the central banks got to issue its bond as high as 4 trillion Thai baht to absorb liquidity into their own chest, because they didn't want the glut of liquidity to be left in commercial banks, and those liquidity might be pushed out into lower quality loans. So that's where we are. I can spend hours and hours now explain why we are here and why we as a government seeing this strength as some unbalanced situation. For example, the reason that those success in export to bring in trade deficit, current account deficit, of course, it's offer the liquidity into the system. But then domestic demand of the country did not grow. And private investors did not really invest into Thailand in order to sell more products locally. They invest into Thailand hoping to export their products to the other part of the world. And we've been too proud of seeing those human resources in the country offering their productivity and efficiency with low wages. So there's some policies that this government is trying to steer our economy into a slightly different direction. We don't want to grow our economy by being too dependent on export growth. We know how important it is to our economy, even though in the past few years we've been very successful increasing the export to the other members in ASEAN and also to East Asia, and become less and less dependent on Western economies. But that's something we still have to rely and depend on the others. But how about ourselves? Can we work on the domestic market in such a way that our people, millions of people in both the urban and rural areas, can earn a little bit more? Once the demand is there, they'll be attracting private investors to come and invest in order to sell some of those products to the local market too. Before I served this cabinet as the finance minister, I started my work in August as the commerce minister too. And I managed to convince my Department of Export Promotion to change its name. Because for me, export promotion sounds very offending. Wherever we go, we try to say that we want to sell more to you. But I like to tell the world that we're not only wanting to sell more to you, we're willing to buy more from you too. Because we know that it's the responsibility of all the countries to create more jobs in their own country. And we're not too happy to see more imbalance of trade surplus. We like to see higher balance in terms of both import and export, and also services. So this is the unique characteristic of the country. In the past several months, our tension with our neighboring countries seems to be the barriers for us to work closely together. I think thanks to my charming Prime Minister, that she can really make friends with all neighboring countries. She visited all those members of ASEAN, and tomorrow she's going to South Korea. Last week she went to Japan, and a few weeks later she'll be traveling to Beijing. And she met with the president of Myanmar, met with the lady, Mrs. Aung San Suu Kyi, met with those leaders in neighboring countries, and explained to them that Thailand is willing to offer ourselves to be the center of connectivity. We will support Myanmar's the wide deep sea port project and their own 2,500 square kilometers industrial zone, so that they can create jobs for their own people in their own country. We would be happy that by doing so, Myanmar will become more prosperous. And I'm sure that if they can run the project successfully, Thailand will have the chance to not only support them, but they will support our prosperity too. So that's us. Now, some of the policy that might sound controversial, like minimum wage increase. Some of you might have read some reports saying that Thailand is crazy enough to try to push the minimum wage of unskilled labor 40% very immediately. I agree that it's unconventional, it's controversial, but we have revised and reviewed the minimum wage of those laborers, and we found out that there must be some mistakes on the inflation calculation, that those unskilled labor 20 years ago, they have had better quality of life than what those unskilled laborers are living today. So $7 a day living in Bangkok, living in a city like Phuket, how could they survive? And by offering $3 more a day, they won't spend the $3 to speculate any property, but perhaps to buy the second bowl of noodles and buy some T-shirts for their family members and then enjoy some decent quality of life. But at the same time, the employers might be unhappy enough to try to work with their own people to improve productivity and efficiency. I don't blame them in the past when the minimum wage increase seems to be the same numbers as the headline inflation. By doing so, they don't have to do much. But these days, I think it's important that the employers will have to change their management system, equip their own people to work better, or train them in order to become more productive and more efficient. We've seen countries like Hong Kong, Taiwan, some 2.5 decades ago, those labor-intensive industries, low value-added products produced here. But we all have to move on. And we know and realize that it's time for Thailand to move on too. And we know that we got to support our friends in Myanmar, in Cambodia, in Laos, in countries with more abundant human resources and lower wages, to agree to absorb those lower value-added industry in order that they will start their first and early days of industrialization. And with the limited human resources of the country, some of the people will perhaps be setting out from some companies that cannot afford to have too many headcounts. But then for me, they're not losing jobs. They're only released out into the pool in such a way that the other company that can grow, or the other companies that will start their business will be able to pick those human resources from the pool. So that's where Thailand is. We have to accept the fact that the timing of this transition or transformation is very important. And I think the only worry I have is on the energy cost. The tension in the Middle East seems to be our problem because the minimum wage is increasing and the other cost of production is increasing. And if that's translated into higher inflation, this administration might be accused of fooling up the inflation because of our policy, which I think you as the analysts or the fund managers, please look into the cost structure carefully. And I don't believe that the additional costs on labor would be the main problem for inflation. Instead, this policy will allow the domestic consumption to grow, and this policy will attract private investors, and this policy will help Bank of Thailand send back the liquidity that they have been taken out in the past several years and suffer because central bank has got to pay the interest charge on those bonds. And I'm working with them very closely in such a way that the exchange rate will be very stable. I was worried when Thai baht get stronger to the level of 30 baht, and if it's stronger to 29, 28, that would make life of those exporters too difficult. I can understand pros and cons of weak and strong local currency, but I think we like to see the range of Thai baht to be very stable in the range of 31 to 34, and then that would be able to offer the right business environment for everyone, including exporters and importers. That's the general picture that I'd like to draw to you. Now, to explain a little bit on the fiscal policy, that we are running the fiscal policy as budget deficit of 400 billion Thai baht. And that amount is the same amount as planned and intended by the previous administration. The cabinet already approved last month that we are bringing down the deficit from 400 to 300 in the next budget bill, which will start the budget year or fiscal year on the 1st of October. We already pushed to pass the executive decree to invest some 350 billion baht on the water management infrastructure. So if we add them all together, it's about 1.05 trillion Thai baht. It's huge, of course, but it's still small as compared to the total public debt to the GDP. As of now, the public debt to GDP of Thailand is about 4.2, 4.3 trillion baht, which is about 40% of our GDP. By borrowing another 1.05, 1.1 trillion more, of course, it's close to 10% of the GDP. But the one huge amount of debt that we created after Asian economic crisis back in 1997 is now, for me, considered not burden of the government because we find another system to handle this debt. And so for me, substance-wise, the public debt to GDP is still very low at about 42%. Another thing is that the GDP is growing. Several months ago, I was the first one who said Thailand's GDP growth for 2012 would be 7%. And I accept that too many people laughed at my forecast. And they actually started with a number of about 4.5. Then a few weeks ago, those who start with 4.5 climbed to 5.5. And then the other house with 5 climbed to 6. I don't know about CSFB, but if you want to increase it to 7.5 someday soon, I won't blame you. Because it's not because I like to push this economy into any overheating system. I was there in the financial service industry in 1997. Instead of celebrating with Hong Kong on the transfer of the economy from the British to where you are now, the whole country of Thailand suffered with the Asian crisis. So we knew the pain, we understand it's painful, so we got to be very careful. But the reason I'm saying that it's got to be 7 is because we are using still the budget deficit on fiscal policy. We are working on the domestic consumption, and it will be attracting more private investors who have seen the growth starting from even October, because we already increased the pay for officers at the state-owned enterprise. And for the civil servant, we started on the 1st of January. And then for the general business sector, the minimum wage would start from the 1st of April. And if you follow the economic activities carefully, you'll be seeing good growth start already. So I won't be surprised that there'll be many more companies who would like to expand their investment to increase the capacity or start new factories. That seems to be the general situation. And also, I understand that with the intention to be extremely disciplined on fiscal policy, while we have to review our infrastructure. After 1997, we cut down the investment into long-term infrastructure project to a very low percentage of lower than 15% of the annual budget. Because the government then tried to deal with short-term problems and create jobs. And maybe because of the conventional budget system that we look at the base of the previous year and add a few more percentage into this and that. So more than a decade already that we haven't brought back the proper investment into infrastructure. Look at our rail system, for example. Thailand has got 4,500 kilometers of rail system. Only less than 7% become double rail. And in those 4,500 kilometers of rail system were built since King Rama V and Rama VI, which seems to be about 100 years ago. We haven't done much. We haven't done enough in the past several years. Look at our highway system. When we suffer with a flood, main highways linking to different parts of countries, we don't really have enough highways to handle the situation when certain highway was blocked. We have to invest. The airport, Suvarnabhumi Airport, that we were so pleased and proud that we could open it 6 years ago. The airport was planned for 45 million passengers. Now the passengers using Bangkok Airport already hit 48,000. If you are unlucky enough to land in Bangkok on the wrong day or wrong time of the day, you might have to be in the line for more than an hour because we are not so well prepared for this kind of growth. We have to decide to invest something now, not only big projects at the country level. Last few days I was in Phuket and a cabinet meeting which was initiated by the Prime Minister that every month we'll try to go to different part of the country. I've seen Patong Beach. For those who've been to Phuket, you may know that Patong Beach seems to represent about a third of economic activities of the whole Phuket island. But in order to get to Patong Beach, you got to climb a very steep hill, about 1 kilometer, climb up and down, down and up. Adventurous enough, but every other month we seem to suffer with some serious accidents. I talked to the Lord Mayor and I said, why don't you just initiate something? He said he did. And they found out that in order to dig a tunnel to link Krattu, which is another district close to the Phuket central area, into Patong, it would cost about 5 billion Thai baht. And he felt that with that cost of investment, it's impossible for the government to approve the budget for this project. I said, I agree. But why don't we just securitize this project? We know that there are more than 30,000 vehicles using these adventurous steep hills. If we only collect $1 per one pass, we can collect more than 1 million baht a day for this project. And it's not too difficult at all for us, for the local government, for the central government, for the Expressway Authority of Thailand. The Express Authority of Thailand operate those projects in Bangkok only as of now. But they can operate somewhere else too. And the reason they didn't go out to somewhere else because they assumed that there might not be economic feasibility into the other part of the country, which is not true. So these are the things that we can do. Besides, I mentioned about the railway system. I mentioned about not having enough highway. What the government can do without increasing our borrowing and then worry those conservative people who might not want the government to borrow too much, which include the governor of Bank of Thailand, that tomorrow I'll talk to him seriously, that the comment he placed into the market a few days ago saying that he was worried that the government is borrowing too much was very much misunderstood. He might thought that we want to try to raise the money to fund those projects through the so-called conventional public borrowing system, which is not necessarily true. For example, when you land in this Suvarnabhumi Airport, right? Coming to the city, you pass through the Eastern Ring Road. And that Eastern Ring Road already have the tollway system that already generate good stream of income, very stable growth. What we can do is we just securitize that stream of income into infrastructure fund. If the government want to participate into some part, if we want to attract investors, whether they are local, international, we can raise enough money to invest into the second project that might link Bang Pe-in, which is important part of Ayutthaya industrial zone, to reach Korat or Nakhon Ratchasima, that's considered as the city, the gate city of the Northeast, without having to borrow any amount from the market. But then once we start that and we collect toll fee on this new highway again, when the stream of income becomes stable enough, of course, under the advice of Mr. Camacho and the team of CSFB, we might place that fund into the market again to get the funding to invest into the third project. The tunnel that I mentioned, I don't think we got to try to sell the papers into Bangkok. I'm sure that those Phuket people will want to invest into their own tunnel. But it might be good that we spare some for other investors in the other part of the country. So sorry that I haven't really list out all the possibilities, but just to want to offer the idea to you that Thailand is strong enough now, which is difficult to understand. How on earth an economy that suffered a coup d'etat a few years ago, suffer with the political battles between the red shirt, yellow shirt, closed the airport, took over and occupied the most important shopping center of the city, suffer with serious flood, but still stand here. Seems that Thailand is very resilient. I'm not saying that I'd like to see anything of those happen again, right? But it seems that we must be something. And the something that I keep saying and talking to my good friends is that perhaps in the past half century, we did not plan. Did I use the right word? We did not plan. Without good planning, turn this country into a well-diversified country. We didn't plan to be too industrialized. We didn't plan to keep agricultural base as the dominating part of the economy. We didn't plan to be in the heavy petrochemical industry well enough. We didn't plan to be Detroit of Asia. We didn't plan to be the producer of high quality of garment products. We didn't plan to work too hard on the food processing. We didn't plan to be the best spot for tourists. We seem to take it easy. And by doing so, we're here. I'm not saying that it's the right thing, but that might be the explanation. And but unfortunately, we didn't plan well enough on one thing. In 1999, we have had a good master plan for integrated water management as recommended by our Japanese friend, JICA, Japan International Cooperative Agency. They have done good study out of their own problem in Japan and some other places around the world, and they know that Thailand was becoming important production base for their own companies. So they produced a very good report, pushed this report to be considered by the government then. But the government then decided to put that nice report on the shelf. And I don't blame them because it's only a year and a half after Asian economic crisis. If someone come to you with this thick of report saying that, hey, guys, you got to invest some 7, 8 billion of US dollars to prevent your problem from something that might or might not happen. It was not very easy for the government to try to work on it. Then it was interesting enough that a year after, in year 2000, there's an office reported directly to His Majesty the King. And you may know that our His Majesty the King, very much talented and interested in the water management. It's called the Office of Crown Property Bureau, came up with another report, very similar concept to our JICA's report. So those two reports sat together on the same shelf. When I first learned about this, when I stepped into the government and then I've seen the flooding, damaging certain cities and industrial zones, and I found out about these two reports. I was sad. I couldn't really sleep very well for the whole week. But all of a sudden, I felt that, God, it happened, right? Don't be sad. Actually, having those plans better than didn't have, because we didn't have to start from zero again. So I really formed those groups who help work for the king and work with those groups who help work from Japan to work together. And we managed to get one single report that has got consensus among those specialists. Then now we suffer with the problem. The damage of assets in last flooding was as high as 1.4 trillion Thai baht, according to the World Bank. And I'm sure that it was painful enough that we'll work very hard on it. Sad to say that the Thai people will work hard after the painful lessons. After the painful lessons in 1997, we worked very hard to improve the governance. We worked very hard on the discipline, financial discipline, and all others. Now, with the problem we've seen last year, we'll invest the amount of money in order to make the spot safest. And I'm confident that by doing so, both the budget deficit, budget deficit, domestic consumption rebalancing, private investment that would increase naturally after those business groups have seen good growth in domestic consumption, and also investment in the infrastructure for water management system. When they all combined together, the Thai GDP, not only for 2012, but in 2013 and 2014, would be very prosperous and stable. As I said, and I think my only concern is on the energy costs. We will have to do something that we did not plan to do. One is to still keep subsidizing those energy. For example, the liquefied petroleum gas. We've been long subsidizing this item in the past 2 decades. And now the price of LPG in Thailand is only less than half of the price in our neighboring countries. In the past, we planned to slowly increase it in order to achieve the market level in about a year. Now we will have to keep subsidizing it for a few more months, and the target to become balanced might become 2 years rather than a year. Why? Because we do not want to be seen or to be discredited that the minimum wage policy seems to be the main reason for inflation, which I do believe that it's not. And I have talked to those business people who already agree to work with their own people, increasing the minimum wage. Trust me that they start to understand the idea, they like the idea, and they understand that the purchasing power from all those people in the economy who come back to become their own customers. So I need to subsidize it for a few months until these lower income group can enjoy their higher purchasing power for a while, stabilizing the inflation in such a way that it would be only cost-push inflation out of those uncontrollable factors. And once it's confirmed, then we will move on with our plan by reducing the subsidy on those items. We not only subsidize on the LPG, we subsidize on the NGV, we subsidize on free electricity up to 90 units to those low-income families. We subsidize into free bus for those people in Bangkok. We subsidize for some free railway fee for those passengers. The reason we have done that in the past, I could understand. It's because we, means the government, not this government, but all those governments in the past, did not pay enough attention on the income side. We have been too proud of seeing Thailand as the low-wage country. And when we say low wage, it's not necessarily high productivity. But once they earn too little, but they have to maintain their decent quality of life, that's a pressure for all those governments in the past to try to subsidize those items. So I think this government is implementing a transformation. It would be as important transformation as it was 50 years ago when we started Board of Investment Office. It would be as important transformation as we did after 1997, that we changed our exchange rate regime and we increased the level of governance on the financial service sector. This time, the transformation would be working seriously on the distribution of wealth, working seriously on the stability of prices by moving away from those deeply subsidized items to bring it back and closer to the market-determined level, and decide to increase our investment into necessary infrastructure to support the longer-term growth for the country. I didn't even mention about Lam Chapang deep sea port. It's getting closer and closer to its capacity, and we have to work on it. But let me emphasize again that on the fiscal policy, it will be very well disciplined, but we will use the fundraising through some innovative mechanism, and also to work with international investors partners. You might have heard about the Chinese, that they have worked very well with our friends in Laos, that the rail system from the southwest of China will come down to Vientiane. Then our friends from China told us that it's our job for Thailand to link ourselves to Nong Khai and build the bridge for both roads and rail, so that we will offer ourselves to be the center of connectivity all the way down to Malaysia and Singapore. And also, you might have heard about our friends from Japan who are working very closely with us because they like to see Thailand support Myanmar on the 25,000 square kilometers of special economic zone and deep sea port in the Y. They like us to work and help link the Y, help build too, right? And then link that through Thailand, through Mukdahan and Suvarnakhet in Laos, reaching Da Nang in Vietnam. And you might have heard that the Indian government is pleased, and they like to see the good progress in that, because the Chennai port is only a few kilometers away from this Dawai. So the link or the connectivity would be another part of what you'll be seeing in the following half decades and perhaps the whole decades too. GMS countries, 6 members, the China, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, have had last summit meeting in Naypyidaw a few months ago. My Prime Minister attended that meeting, and we pledged the full commitment that we'll work together on this connectivity. The other countries outside this, we also have Japan GMS forum too. So Japan will come in, and you can imagine that even though we have seen very good progress in Myanmar, but I don't think it would be right for just Thailand, and to be very proud of a company called Ital Thai, who got that investment concession to work alone and to become just Thailand and Myanmar. The more countries joining us, the better. The more friends into that would help the success of the project. The more friends would help reduce the expropriation risk. And that's what we'll be doing in the following several years from now. My chairman said, I got to stop. And hope to have some questions from you.
Thank you very much, Kittiratt. It's indeed a wealth of insights and information, on the rebalancing of the economy to the domestic economy, encouraging domestic consumption, the fiscal program that you have described, the infrastructure and all the opportunities in infrastructure, the plans on reducing the subsidies, and many others. At this point, I'd like to invite questions from the audience.
Thanks, Deputy Prime Minister, for the presentations. Recent developments such as the transfer of the FIDF debt to the central bank and also the rejection of the inflation target of headline inflation by the cabinet, they pose some market concern about the central bank independence is being eroded. So how you address to that, and also the recent disbursement of the budget for flood-related infrastructure is expected to rise the debt-to-GDP ratio to 48.6%. So this poses some of the market concern of the fiscal discipline. So I would like to hear more about that. Thank you.
Referring to the FIDF debt, it started after the 1997 crisis, of course, and it stood there. We had the decree back in 1998 to raise funds to support this in order to help guarantee the deposit offered by those 56 deposit-taking houses in the past. And the debt started at 1.4 trillion Thai baht. Very interesting that it was placed in the decree that the responsibility to bring down the principal would be Bank of Thailand. And knowing that Bank of Thailand could not really take care of the interest charges, so the government has got to add some 65 billion Thai baht into the budget every year in order to service the interest for those FIDF bonds. So almost a decade and a half, principal was brought down from 1.4 to 1.14. So you can imagine how little it was. And I don't blame my friends in Bank of Thailand because they're not paying the interest charge. They only pay principal payment if they feel that they can afford. So it's altogether 670 billion Thai baht already serviced debt of this amount. And I can understand that no finance minister in the past want to touch on this because it's just like hotcakes. But for me, for this government, actually in the beginning we knew that we had to do something with this, but we felt that, well, if we have time and we can just pretend not to see it because it sits there for a decade and a half, no one would blame us too much by not looking at it. But as I earlier mentioned, that we have to borrow another 1 trillion baht to support the budget deficit of 2 years and also the water management infrastructure. By doing nothing on the former debt, how much confidence you will have on us that we will work very hard to take care of the additional debt. So I work with the Bank of Thailand, and trust me, that the Bank of Thailand understand that this is their own responsibility. Now they are managing the asset, which is as huge as $175 billion, as I mentioned. I'm not saying that they will have to place that on high risk, high return project, but to manage this huge amount of asset in order to yield something, in order to bring down the FIDF is not too difficult at all. But in order to support them, that it's not just us who would want to push the problem to them. We'll work together. As of now, we have a deposit guarantee fund that we collect 40 bips from the guarantee deposit base into the fund. And of course, the target of the fund is to try to collect some cash to reach a few billion Thai baht within a few years from now. The question I want to ask you that, do you think that amount of money, if it's too little, can it provide the deposit guarantee? If it's huge enough to provide the guarantee, do you think it's wise for any economy in the world to just place that valuable resources just to be there and tell the world that you're safe? I don't think that's the way we got to look at it. The way to guarantee deposit is to work with those banks and deposit-taking house well enough. The level of governance has got to be high enough. The policy on lending has got to be prudent enough. So we said, as of now, we already collect the amount to close to 100 billion Thai baht already. So I said, let's be happy with it for a while. We're not canceling the fund, but we'll have the fund to collect only 1 bps from the deposit-taking base. And we agreed to transfer the rest, about 39 bps to central bank. But you know that central banks might be the same all over the world. They want to be extremely conservative. So they came back to me and say, hey, 39 bips might not be enough. They like to get 46 bips. And I said, fine. Why I'm saying fine? Because previously, these banks are paying 40 bips already. So the 6 more bips is, of course, costing a little bit more. But it's implementing in the same year as the government agreed to cut down corporate income tax rate from 30 to 23%. So the corporate income tax rate, if we compare with the fees that they're working on the same basis, it's equivalent to 12 bips. So the 6, 7 bips additional, it doesn't mean that they have to cut down the deposit rate from the depositors. It doesn't mean they have to pass the cost to the lenders, to the borrowers. It doesn't mean that they have to beg their shareholders to suffer with the dividends. It's actually us who agreed to bring the corporate income tax down. And we are not doing so for commercial banks, I agree. But we are working very hard with the Revenue Department, expanding the tax base. And please trust me that our work is very good in such a way that we managed to convince those business people who try their best to evade tax in the past to agree that now the rate is not that high anymore. They should come into the system. And we have told them that our computer system is getting better and better. If they do not come to join the system in time, they'll be in even deeper trouble. And we told them all that if we all work together well enough, the corporate income tax rate next year would be coming down further to 20%. Why 20%? Because we know that our friends in Singapore is charging 17. Now our friends in Malaysia is charging 25. And I'm sure that they both would want to bring down from the existing level. So we're not just sitting still, we plan ahead. What I try to explain to you is that this is a very well integrated policy, very well coordinated. And it's just like some of the people, maybe even the local journalists, they look at this policy as if it's like piecemeal, which is not. So I think it would be very successful. And I'm also confident that within a short period of time, Bank of Thailand will come back to me again and say that they may not want to collect as high as 46 bips because they can manage their return better. For example, in the FIDF fund, there are also some assets left in there already. The assets left in the fund can generate up to 10 billion baht already. So the 46 bips that they're trying to ask me to agree, which I did agree, It actually come out from the assumption that Bank of Thailand can not make any return at all out of the assets under their management. So it will be coming down. And once it comes down, of course, we'll add a little bit back into the deposit guarantee fund. And another issue that you may like or may not like, deposit guarantee fund from the 1st of August, they plan to bring down the guarantee per account from 50 million Thai baht to 1 million baht. And I felt that that's a too sharp decrease. So I want them to look into that, and those deposit-taking houses now very strong. Why can't they bring down like 50 down to 25, and then 20, and then 10, and then 5, and then 1, and expand it for a few years. So our policy might be some drastic change on the real sector, but it will be very gradual change on the financial service sector.
Thank you very much, Kittiratt. Sadly, I'd love to take more questions, but and it's not just in the interest of vacating this room. More important, we're trying to get Deputy Prime Minister back at the airport in time for his flight early this evening. So I'm afraid we will have to cut the Q&A. However, I should say, and I hope you all agree, that through the presentation of the Deputy Prime Minister and his response to the first, the 3 questions that was asked by the gentleman, I think he has shared quite a wealth of information, insights over so many aspects of the Thai economy that I hope we all come out of this, better informed, more enlightened, and perhaps feel the same kind of optimism that the Deputy Prime Minister shared with us in terms of the prospects, not only for this year in terms of the economic growth, more important, the sustainability of the growth pattern over the next many years. So, Kittiratt, on behalf of Credit Suisse and on behalf of our friends who are attending the AIC, just want to thank you for your generosity and time. Thank you for your insights. And we wish you and your government well in implementing your various programs. Thank you very much. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen.